Okay, it looks like most of you have your headphones on. I'm Dan Durrie, and Lance Kugler and I get to do something here for the next 20 minutes that we don't usually get to do, and that's talk without slides. Because we get so buried to our slides, it's really kind of fun to work with one of our colleagues and just talk. And what we thought we'd do is, I think Lance is going to ask me some questions, I'm going to ask him some questions, and you get to listen in and feel, right? And is that better? Yeah. And feel free to go ahead and raise your hand or anything and then up to us, because we want this as just as informal as possible. But I practice in Kansas City. I've been kind of in the field of refractive surgery since it's first started. I've done a lot of clinical trials and development. But really, I really like working with industry and seeing things that are popping up now. Now that we're all getting together, this is kind of a fun meeting for me to meet old friends and kind of move to the next level. So Lance is a colleague of mine from Omaha, and I practiced in Omaha, and we knew each other really well. Actually, didn't you go to grade school with my daughter?
Yeah, with your daughter, yeah.
That ages me, doesn't it? so that Lance is a really innovative ophthalmologist, fun to work with. And so I'm going to hand the microphone to him, and we'll kind of pass this off. He's going to ask me a few questions. I'll ask him a few questions, and hopefully it's interesting to you.
Yeah, thanks. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, it is so unique to be able to sit down and just talk. And, Dan's been one of my mentors as I've grown up in the field. And I'm curious, who would you consider your mentors as you've looked at this 30-year career you've had?
Yeah, and my mentor was a gentleman by the name of Jack Filkins. And he was a ophthalmologist, a very innovative ophthalmologist. And I ended up looking up to him when I was a resident in Omaha, and I was lucky enough to do a fellowship with him, and then I practiced with him for 9 years. And he taught me so much, but one of the biggest things he taught me was the business of ophthalmology, and that's a lot of things what we learn, what we don't learn in our residency and things. And so I've got it oriented kind of into the business philosophy from my mentor. He was a fabulous corneal surgeon, got me involved in a lot of things, but I think it was the business that really kind of triggered me to look at, we not only need to help our patients, but we need to help our practices, we need to help the industry. So I always appreciated that from him.
And then along those same lines, what are you seeing as you look to the future in terms of trends in surgery, both intraocular surgery and refractive surgery? And what do you see as the challenges in the coming decades that we need to be conquering?
First, I think looking back a little bit, and I've been asked this over the years, is what is the number one biggest thing that happened to our industry that helped us today and is going to help us in the future? And it actually was a business process. It was the 2005 CMS ruling that we could have a private pay part of ophthalmology. So when Andy Corley spent the time in those years back with Ionics to go ahead and get CMS to allow us to charge the patient for the refractive appointment of an IOL, it created almost everything you see in this room. Because without that, and without the premium IOLs, and without the development, we would have had a plain old ordinary IOL that nobody else would have been able to do. So I think that's when I look forward, I look at those things that are going to have really big impact. And I look at what got us here. It was phacoemulsification, intraocular lenses, ambulatory surgery centers, and kind of groups of people working together to try to change things. So I know that, and we'll get into it with Lance's questions, but I think that the thing that I see now is I see a new mega trend going on, and we're both involved in it, is that both of us are doing all of our surgery in our office now instead of at the ambulatory surgery center in the hospital. I see that as kind of one of these inflection points that I've seen before when I helped develop ASCs back in the 80s, and that was kind of a strange idea, and everybody said it wasn't going to work, and now I see that this movement is starting to happen. And Lance, you've been doing surgery in your office now for
About 5 years.
About 5 years. So you were one of the first people. What did you see as an unmet need that made you kind of go there? What was the trigger?
Well, what I was seeing, so my practice is primarily refractive surgery, but that includes RLE and ICL. And what I saw was that my Lasik patients that were having their surgery done in my office had a very different experience than the patients who were going to the ASC across town. And the ASC across town was an excellent facility. They had great equipment, great staff, a really good experience, but it still wasn't as good as what we were doing with our Lasik patients. I mean, they still had to put a gown on, and there's a monitor beeping on the wall, and it felt like they were in a medical surgical facility, and I was struck by that. And I also was frustrated by my inability to control the fees that I was paying at the ASC, because they were really out of whack for what it costs to do the procedure. And so I said, well, I really need to find a way to do this in our office. And because I wanted it to be LASIK-like and control all those variables, I decided to do it as an in-office suite as we were redesigning our Lasik suite. So we built an OR as part of that. And so what it's allowed us to do is achieve that LASIK-like experience for people, and also control the costs and control the schedule and timing and everything else.
Yeah, no, and in Durrie Vision, we did kind of the same thing. As we had to get out of our lease where we were building a new space. So we built a space for in-office surgery when we build our a new office. And so it's just kind of a natural transition from our practice to doing our surgery. And we saw the patient experience, the control of the schedule. It's kind of interesting because I was looking at the people that do office space surgery that work in IOR Partners, which we both are part of. And I was looking at the surgical volumes that usually drop down when everybody goes to the ASCRS. They didn't go down at all. I can log into it every day. Their volumes are going up because they own the practice, they own their schedule, so they just scheduled extra days to do their cases just like you did. Yep. Before they got here. So it's kind of controlling your own schedule is kind of interesting. As far as the future things, which was kind of your question you gave me before, I think we really need to pay attention to the declining reimbursement for cataract surgery. It's right front and center for everybody right now. It's when I was talking to Steve Spears, the CEO of ASCRS, talking to Dick Lindstrom, talking to some of the leadership, this is now getting serious. We've had the 15% cut in January. We've got another cut in August, and there's now feeling like that's going to stop on decreasing the professional fee. So we need to look at things that actually increase the business overall on other options, and one of them is, can I do my surgery in the office and get some of that revenue too? But also, there's other things that I think of as on a big picture issue, is why is CMS and the payers paying less for some of these surgeries? It's because they don't have the money to pay more. And so we need to be part of the solution. So I'm kind of addressing with the Academy committees that I'm on and the ASCRS committees that I'm working with, to how do we become part of the solution? How do we cost less by doing some things that we can do by moving surgery to the office, which does cost less? Can we decrease the amount of standby anesthesia we're doing? Can we do bilateral surgery? And those things are all coming and we can do, and they all decrease the cost to the overall system. So I think we need to stay on top of that. And I know, Lance, you've been doing bilateral same-day surgery for quite a few years. Maybe you can make a comment for the people that are wondering, is that safe? Is that something that works?
So kind of along the topic of safety, I think anybody that's moving to an in-office surgery situation, that's always their first concern, and rightfully so. It was my concern when I first started to consider the idea was, well, is this going to be a safe thing to do? And it turns out that the ORs that we're putting in the office, it's not like we're doing clean room or procedure room, full-fledged OR. You would not be able to tell between the OR that we're using and OR at an ASC or even a hospital. And it's accredited by an accrediting body like Quad A. We have the same or better sterilization protocols and processes and compliance and everything else. So safety-wise, I feel really good about it because I feel like we're providing it at a higher standard than an ASC would provide. What we don't have to do is have all the things that it requires for non-patients, like fire retardant wall and the ability for gurneys to pass each other, things like that that just simply aren't relevant for eyes. But we can do the eye part at a and create our own protocols for that. So safety-wise, I feel really good about it. Now, in terms of same-day bilateral, there's quite a bit of literature out there on that over the past 15 years or so. And if you treat each eye as a completely separate event, then it becomes statistically separate events. So it's no different than doing one eye on a Monday and the next eye the following week. It's just we're doing it 10 minutes later instead of 10 days later. So we use, everything is separate. So we're not just doing one eye and then doing the other like you do with Lasik. You do one eye, and then it's a complete changeover of a procedure. So it's all new, everything, new drapes, new instruments, new everything, and we maintain separate lots of all the supplies. So we have a right eye supply and a left eye supply. So for viscoelastics and anything that goes in the eye or on the surface of the eye, everything is separate. So statistically, they're separate events. And so if you do the math on this and back it out, the risk of a bilateral endophthalmitis is about 1 in 37 million. So it's extremely safe to do, provided that you're doing the protocols the right way. And that's a huge thing for patients. I mean, to be able to do bilateral same day, you don't really appreciate what a benefit that is to them until you start to offer it. And it's just a huge thing for them. And so that's an important thing. The other thing that you mentioned I was going to touch on was, so the declining reimbursement is getting serious. It's been serious for a long time. It's maybe getting to an inflection point now. So I think part of it is controlling the cost. The other part of it is capturing the value of what we're doing. So the payers have said, we're going to lower the value that we're going to pay you for what you're doing, but it doesn't change the value of what you're offering to patients, and we need to be able to capture that. And one way to do that is to have the ability to do the premium channel with lens surgery, and I think that doing that in the office is a very good way to capture the premium channel because you're providing that same Lasik-like experience.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and this is when since I can go back to the beginning, is we didn't used to do bilateral Lasik surgery. Everybody didn't even think about it now, but we didn't do both eyes on the same day when we started. And so we went through this same process of doing it scientifically, and we did the studies and we looked at the data. And matter of fact, in our practice, we still, in the Durrie Vision practice, we use separate equipment and separate lots, separate equipment, even on our Lasik surgery, we always have. So we just are using the same process we've always done because that's the way we did the clinical studies to show that it was safe to do bilateral Lasik surgery. So we, different speculum, different equipment, different cannulas and everything on the two eyes has always been the way that we did it. So it's just kind of natural to move it into overall and into cataract surgery in the office. And the one thing that Lance said, and people misconstrue this, is these are regular ORs, and you need to be. They need to be accredited centers. You've got a crash cart, you've got all the equipment. Matter of fact, the one thing I'd say that's different about them, they're a lot better looking. So if you start looking at somebody that puts something in their practice, our centers are really cool. Yeah. I like yours and you like mine. Yeah. I mean, they're really neat because they're part of our practice. And a lot of people during the counseling stage will actually take the patient through their surgery center when they're talking to signing up surgery and said, here's where you're coming for your surgery. And Lance did a really good job of kind of integrating his OR into his practice so that it's kind of a showplace that it's natural to be there. One thing that has come up, the two things that come up if somebody asks about office-based surgery is the first one they say, is it safe? And that's kind of been answered just by volume of I think most people look at the literature, it's being done, and surgery in your office is safe. But the other thing is that can you get paid for it? Because that's the other thing. Second question they're going to ask, and matter of fact, maybe it's the first question they're asking now that the safety question's coming back. But I think it's interesting is that one seems to be answered also, but that at least the experiences we've had internally in the company, now we've got paid in every state in the country, and over 800 payers pay for in-office surgery. So I think you're going to get a lot of momentum going on. Are you feeling that from your colleagues too?
Yeah, so it's been good for us in terms of revenue for those reasons. I mean, we're able to capture the facility side of payment through this in ways I wasn't able to do as a very small owner of an ASC. We're able to capture it better in our current situation, and I think you're right. I think it's just going to become more and more common, because one thing that, and you can comment if you agree over your career, but anytime that something is better for patients, better for surgeons, and better for payers, those things tend to do really well, and it's just a matter of time till those floodgates open, because when those things align, it's a no-brainer for everybody, and I think this is one of those things.
Yeah, I've always had it, and people who have heard me lecture over the years have seen me do this, but I always hold up my hand and I say there's basically certain things that have to happen for a technology or a service or anything in ophthalmology to be successful. Number one, it's got to be safe. Okay, we kind of check that box. Number two, it's got to be effective, and obviously in-office cataract surgery is just as effective as doing office, if not more. The new ones that have been added over a period of time now is it needs to be convenient. And that's not just convenient for the patient, it's convenient for the staff, convenient for everybody else, and in-office hits that one. And the next one, it needs to be cost effective. And a lot of things in ophthalmology, if you just look at femtosecond lens surgery and kind of rate that, is it safe? Probably. Is it effective? We've debated about whether that. Is it more convenient? Not really. And is it cost effective? No. So, and even that technology has been successful, but it's had some headwinds. Now, I have the fifth one that I've added now that we're really working on is we need to be good citizens. And right now, cataract surgery creates the most medical trash in the world. Just look at the end of the day on any OR and look at all the stuff that we're throwing away. So one of the things we're working on in turning the company is we want to be environmentally friendly. So safe, effective, convenient, cost-effective, environmentally friendly. If you hit all of those, you basically are taking care of society, you're taking care of your business, and I think that's a feel-good that we really looked at, since our company supplies all the supplies for everybody that's using our system, so we know exactly what they're using on every case all the time. So that's something that we can track the environmental friendliness of the surgeries that we're doing. And I think that's something, BVI being a good example, since they're kind of hosting this talk, this is something that they've been looking at too. It's kind of a requirement in companies this size. You've got to look at what is environmental impact of your products, and we're working together with companies like BVI to hit that target also, which will be very nice for the future. We're
over time.
But
any questions?
Any questions from anybody? Yes.
Yeah, we use just about every IOL that's available in the market. We use in our, depending on what the patient needs are and what the biometry is. Everybody gets the full range of diagnostics. Everybody gets several topographers and meibomian glands and OCT and endothelial cell count, everything else. We do use femtosecond laser a lot of times particularly for astigmatism management, and so that's been a nice tool to have. And then the other thing that's been nice is to have really high quality biometry, whether it's a LensStar or an IOL Master. Has been huge.
Any other questions? know, we'll be around, and I think that this is the type of meeting that I'm so glad to get back together and see faces again. You know, my wife last night, I was talking to her, she didn't come along, and I said, I really miss you, and she said, no you don't, you're just having fun. So, and she was right, so thanks.
Thanks everybody.